So already I was really excited to do this review just because of how quickly people started interacting on my first one, and it was really fun, and I enjoyed talking and like back and forth with people. So it made me want to get this one out sooner, and also because of the new Star Wars movie coming out, I kind of want to hurry up and get through the Screams so that I could start doing the Star Wars ones before Rise of Skywalker comes out. Oh, I'll have my Instagram linked down below. Go follow me on Instagram. I remember being so young, and obviously with the first story of Scream, around that age, I had only had the first one and the third one on DVD, and I never saw the second one for years until I was like 11. I had fallen in love with Scream at like 7 or 8. And then one day, my grandma was at a yard sale and found a VHS of Scream 2, and that was the first time I watched it, was on a VHS, and I loved it. So let's get into this reaction of Scream 2 from 1997. Just almost a year after the release of Scream, it was obviously so popular, everybody just could not get enough of it, that they were like, alright, let's hurry up and get another one out there. But what I love about this movie is it's a great example of, yes, it was rushed out there, and yes, there's a direct sequel, and yes, it was less than a year, but they did it well. They did it so well. I mean, the script writing and the story and the execution, it all just seemed right. I love so many things about this movie. I'll also do a ranking video about like where I rank the Scream series and stuff, so that should be interesting. I'm really excited to talk about that one. Okay, but starting off, it keeps in the tradition of killing off a main actress, Jada Pinkett Smith, in the opening kill. That alone was really cool, on top of being meta about, I had never seen something like that before. The kill from the first movie is being watched by the people who are about to get killed in the second movie. And after he gets it through the stall door in the head, and the killer has the disguise and comes back in the theater to get Maureen, I like how the editing of the scene takes place. Whenever there's a cut of the movie going on and the girl gets stabbed, and then flashes to Jada Pinkett Smith, and then she gets stabbed, and it's this simultaneous, like, every time that there's a stab on screen, it, like, she gets stabbed in real life, and the whole, like, no one being able to catch that or pay attention to that was just really crazy. That was a great concept. That was a strong way to open up the film. This is the first movie in the Scream series where we kind of get that, like, slit, and then it says Scream and, like, the iconic text that we're used to, and I just like that. I like the font of that so much better, so it was a cool, like, little opening. And we open up with Sidney Prescott, in college. I love the bobbed hair. I love that she's completely unfazed by the phone call at the beginning, and checks the caller ID. Immediately when we're in class and we see Randy talking about who would want to make a sequel, sequels suck, who wants to do that, and Michelle Gellar, yes, she's in it, and she starts talking about how life doesn't imitate art, that this, and that, and the other, and I think that was a really great discussion of, do horror movies have any credit towards pushing people over the edge? Can they be an excuse? Can you blame horror movies for someone's actions? Like, that was a big debate in that movie, and I really loved that. I think that's actually one of the killer's reasons at the end. So I just loved that whole aspect. In the movie talk, that was great. I love Sidney's boyfriend in this movie. I thought that he was the sweetest thing. I don't know, maybe I was just a big romancy fan at that time, or I still am, but it was just really nice. You could see that she was genuinely happy with him, even before she suspected Billy about anything. You can tell in, like, the opening scene where they're in the bedroom together that she's not really in that boat with him. But in the second one, the chemistry just feels so good, and I think that they play on, you know, is history repeating itself very well in that, and making her not be able to trust Derek. I don't know. That was a really interesting angle I think that they worked in. Gale Weathers and Dewey. Now, I thought it was very interesting how they, you know, brought them back for this one. It was a good idea of course, Dewey's gonna be there. He has to check in on Sydney. Cool, makes sense. Buy that. Gale Weathers showing up, of course, she's, you know, media hungry and wants to be all a part of the continuation of what she had a big, you know, the first Scream movie probably put her through the door, you know, and people really probably started paying attention to her after that. And of course she's gonna come back if another killing is happening. My favorite sequences throughout this film have got to be when Sydney's at the party right after Sarah Michelle Gellar gets killed and he attacks her. But firsthand, that Sarah Michelle Gellar scene where she's alone in that sorority house and on the phone, and they do the whole, he's in the background but she doesn't see him, and then he comes out of the closet and they run upstairs and off the balcony. Great. I love that. That's one of the greatest chase scenes in this movie, if you ask me. It was just, it felt like a Ghostface moment. And it felt like a Ghostface moment again whenever moments later Sydney was the one getting attacked and then Derek runs back in and gets his arm cut. This one was great, and I don't think that they could have gone any other way about it, but Billy Loomis's mother and Mickey are not my favorite killers. I'll just put it that way. And something that I do also really love about this movie is the car chase scene. That was really clever, I think. Being able to have him pop up right there out of nowhere and then kick both of the cops' asses and drive off and crash. That was literally one of the best parts. I remember being riddled with anxiety, like watching it, like not knowing what was gonna happen, feeling that for Sydney, feeling that especially for Hallie, her roommate, because Sydney is Sydney. You know that she's gonna make it out, but the tension of that scene was, is something gonna happen to her? Is something gonna, you know, injure her? Is she gonna catch the killer? Is he gonna wake up? Is Hallie gonna die in this scene? Like, that's what the whole thing was. And then when you think that they're safe, and then he gets her roommate right at the end there, just a shocker. One of the negatives I kind of have about this film is it's a really interesting take having the final showdown on a stage. But what was great about Scream was the whole house aspect. The house on the farm. You know, slasher movies happen in houses kind of thing. I don't know why, it's a feel. So in 1 and 3 and 4, all of the big reveals and the final acts kind of take place in a house. In a room with red walls. Scream 2 is the only one where there's not a kitchen or a red living room, that's the final showdown. And of course I love the finale, but that's what does make it not my favorite at the end of the day. I absolutely call this a worthy Scream sequel, and I sometimes fight with myself about, do I like 2 or do I like 3 better, because it really depends on what mood I'm in and what parts are working for me and the parts that aren't, like how much they bug me. You get to going about it with someone and there's just so many things that come up that you were like, yes, oh, and it's just fun. I love it. I love talking about these movies so much, and so that's what makes these reviews exciting. A negative for this movie also. I know that I said in the last one that if Randy had died in Tatum's place and Tatum carried on to Scream 2, I still believe that. I still think it would have been awesome to have Tatum in Scream 2, and even if she died in this one, it would have, you know, that just would have been really cool. But if you are going to have Randy go on to the sequel, I think as surprising as it was, and as much as I loved the shock factor and like about it, every time I watch it now, being more of a fan, it kind of does have a bitter taste in my mouth. Like, oh, you know, if you're gonna bring back Randy, you know, why not have him at least go all the way to the end? Or like, why not just have him survive and go to the third one? And then they could have killed him off in that one. That would have been cool. I honestly think that if Randy was in the third one, it could have made it stronger. And if his death scene was in the third one, could have been really strong. Blaming the movies. Mickey is getting into his spiel about why he's in it, what he gets out of it. And he says he wants to get caught. He wants to go to trial. He wants to see if he can get away with, it's not my fault. I was encouraged by a movie that looked fun. I wanted to try it. I'm an innocent victim of, you know, marketing media stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I think it takes someone who's definitely not on the mentally healthy side to kind of put a killing spree together. Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson being back for this, that's another strong aspect. I mean, the two really do make up the franchise. They just really know how to come together and make a story. I think that it was really awesome. If you've ever noticed anything about documentaries about the first Scream, Kevin Williamson said that at the end of his script for Scream was a treatment for Scream 2, and it was like the first couple pages or whatever, because he said he'd already had plans, like he had it in his mind, like Sidney's story could go past this. And there was also a potential plot leak. Well, it was a plot leak. It went out into the internet. There was supposed to be like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 to my knowledge, killers in this film. It was gonna be like Dewey, Hallie, her boyfriend, Mickey, Mrs. Loomis, and like another person, I think. Like half of the cast was supposed to be like in on it, and it was supposed to be like this whole like kind of a thing, but that leaked, and they did rewrites and reshoots and all that other stuff, and they kind of kept it down to Mrs. Loomis and Mickey, and it was still surprising. Of course, that was all before I was even born, so I didn't know anything about that whenever I went into the movie. One of the things I loved about this movie is I really, really, really don't think I ever suspected the killers. Like, and I think that that was one of the really strongest aspects of the film, was that, like, nobody would ever suspect Debbie Salt because of her just being kind of like a throwaway background reporter who wasn't important in anything. And so when she's the killer, you're like, what the hell? And when she gives the exposition of, I'm Mrs. Loomis, then you think, that was perfect, like right under our noses. We didn't know who she was, so there's no way we would suspect her. And then because of her ties to the situation, we don't feel cheated. It feels like a real killer. And that was great. Mickey, I didn't even remember Mickey. I forgot he was in the film because he like disappears halfway through it and isn't in it again until he takes off a mask. By the way, Mickey is the first killer in the Scream universe to take off a mask. Debbie Salt, Mrs. Loomis, reveals herself out of costume. And the second movie was literally the first time where Sidney saw someone rip that mask off in front of her, and that's when that became iconic. And then when they did the third one, oh, it was so good. And then by the time the fourth one came around, it's like a thing now. You have to take the mask off. You have to. Oh, it's what gets people. I do love the camera work in this movie because of having a bigger budget the second time around. They were able to do more things with it, and I love the whole Gail and Dewey in the archives room and the new camera guy. It's just all in all a really great sequel, and at the end of the day, I'm happy with it. I will never complain about a Scream movie. It's just fun to talk about the little nitpicks that hardcore fans have, but Yeah, so that was my review for Scream 2. I hope you like it. If there were anything that I forgot or blew over or didn't mention, feel free to post down in the comments. I love having discussions about these movies, about movies in general. It's been so much fun to like watch these and give my input on them and my take. Let me know if you agreed with me. Post your favorite things about Scream 2 in the comments. Pretty soon I'll be doing my Scream 3 reaction. That's gonna be fun. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night or whenever it is that you're watching this, and check back for more videos.